Now, investigative journalism website Africa Uncensored is set to be unveiled in Nairobi today, led by investigative journalist John Allan Namu. The website is geared towards telling the African story in its entirety without fear or favor, while interrogating those in authority. We're now joined by Joy Doreen Bira, who is at the launch, to tell us more about that website and what it seeks to achieve. Joy Doreen, if you can hear me. Is it launched already, and what should we expect from this one?
Well, thanks a lot, Akisa. And as you can hear, there's quite a bit of noise that actually does tell you that the website has been launched at 8:30 p.m. here in Nairobi, and that is Africa Uncensored. And so, you know what, the website here and the entire project and company is geared towards achieving is ensuring that journalists are able to tell stories without fear or favor, and able to express media freedom without having to be intimidated by anybody. So the taglines that they're using at the launch today and going forward is investigate, empower, and also expose. So investigate the stories and tell the true African story as it is, and also expose whatever it is that needs to be exposed, the good, the bad, and the ugly of what exactly is happening, not just in Kenya, but around the African continent. And then empower is allowing people know their rights, especially people who live in rural areas in Kenya and around the African continent. So it's quite an interesting time here in Nairobi that we're seeing one journalist, that is John Allan Namu, who took the initiative to start an investigative online website where he's able to tell stories, investigate them without really having to be intimidated or having interference from all angles. Mostly that is political interference in journalism.
Now, Joy, one of the pioneers of this project, of course, John Allan Namu, has been a journalist for quite some time. He's worked at KTN, or the Standard Media, for some time as well. But this launch comes at a time when media freedom, not only in Kenya, but in the other East African countries as well, is seemingly muzzled to some extent. How is this supposed to work out for them? And is this a game changer as far as media freedom is concerned in the East African or the African region at large?
Well, okay, so when you look at the East African context, I'll give an example of what has been happening in Uganda with the just concluded general election, where we saw a lot of journalist arrests. Or rather arrests, and we did see that the manner in which they were arrested and the reasons why they were arrested were not exactly clear. They were arrested while doing their job, and it could have been a question of, did they do anything wrong, or did they do something that might have gone the wrong way with the system at the time? And so those kinds of arrests, I think, are what are part of the reason why Africa Uncensored is being launched, so they can be able to bring out some of the issues, the rights of journalists, where they're being abused, and what exactly needs to be done to make a journalist aware of where he has gone wrong. And if something has gone wrong, what options can a journalist explore? And if they probably do not know their rights regarding what they're doing, if it's investigative journalism, business journalism, or maybe health journalism, they're able to know exactly how to go about certain issues. And you talked about a number of issues being muzzled, and especially in journalism. I think we are living in a time where technology is really changing everything that we do, in not just in journalism, but in all spheres and sectors and industries at large. So the reason as to why we are seeing this as a game changer is that when you're dealing with online, the regulations apply, but they do not apply as much as when you're dealing with traditional media. When something is out online and the message is right, then you know that you're dealing with a situation where someone is telling a story from their side of view before you can get the angle that is either going to be interfered with or censored in this case.
Before I let you go and enjoy the launch, I'm assuming you've had a chance to have a chit chat with John Allen himself. What are his thoughts or his sentiments with regards to media freedom in the African continent?
Well, I spoke to him a few minutes ago, actually, but because of the launch that just happened a few minutes, a couple of minutes ago, he wasn't able to share those ideas with us, or at least with you at the moment. But he did mention one thing. When it comes to investigative journalism, one has got to tell the story as it is and tell it in its entirety. And if there's something that needs to be exposed, then it needs to be exposed as it is, so it can be able to empower the audiences that if something is bad and it's happening in society, then you know that you have options to explore, not that you're muzzled up in, okay, this has happened and I can't say anything about it, because if I say anything about it, then something is going to happen to me. So it's more of telling a story openly and at the same time empowering citizens of Kenya and the African continent that they always have an option. There's always an option to explore, and if something bad has happened, then they know that they need to have certain information on how to deal with situations. And so what we're looking at right now is that it's a game changer, not just in Kenya, but across the African continent. He's actually shared views of journalists from Ghana, shared views from journalists in Ivory Coast, journalists in South Africa, and we seem to share the same problems as African journalists. Everywhere there is suppression of media expression, and we're talking about Kenya, we're talking about Uganda, Tanzania as well during the elections, and we're now seeing increased cases in Burundi and Rwanda as well, where certain stories are not really told in entirety. Akisa.